ahead. Can you see me?
Yep, you're on, Jodi.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired.
Good. I bet. I was hoping I'd be able to stay through Monday. But like I was telling people earlier when I was there Friday, the ride back,
Yeah.
I got here with an eighth of a tank of gas and $14, so I couldn't afford to stay the whole weekend, unfortunately.
That sounds like where I'm about right now. I'm just getting started. So for those that don't know who I am, I'm Jodi Mueller, and I founded the group Parental Alienation Awareness Iowa. I have 3 other groups as well. Parental Alienation Warriors Unite, that's on the back of these shirts actually, and Make Families Great Again with Adrian Haig from Pennsylvania, and then a page, Erase No More. I started my group. I didn't know, I was like a lot of other alienated parents, I didn't know this was going on with so many people like it is. And I don't know if people know my story, but I was beyond grief. And my first 2 were taken 7 different times, abducted 7 different times. Sometimes it was 2 weeks, sometimes 6. I knew the last time I wouldn't see them again. First time my ex took my children, it was in the middle of a baby shower for my twins in southern Iowa. And there was 30 friends and relatives sitting there. And he showed up unannounced with my older 2 children in the Jeep. I had no idea. They were supposed to be at a babysitter's. And he walked in, asked for some help for a gift for me, and took some of my cousins in the back, told them that he was filing for divorce, and that I had to go out and tell people the twins were not his, which they are. I didn't know he had a girlfriend that's a flight attendant, had no idea this was going on. And he asked for my hand. He came out, asked for my hand, said, "I want the guest of honor." I knew right then I was in trouble. I actually thought I was going to be killed that day. And he dragged me down the hallway. My cousins were at the door in the bedroom doing this number and crying. So I kind of thought we're all going to be shot. If you knew my history with this man, you probably would have thought so too. But there was a lot of coercive control, manipulation, crazy making, gaslighting going on in my whole marriage. So I didn't go in. He threw divorce papers at me and told me to get out in front of all my friends and relatives, 30-some people, and tell everybody the twins were not his. So he said, "If you don't do it, I'm going to do it." He went out and pointed at him, said, "Those aren't mine, especially that one." Pointed to Kylie because she has O positive blood, different than him. So anyone that's with a narcissist, if these kids aren't perfect or just like them, they're nothing. So that's how he treated her. He left. We're all sitting there numb. I'm running into the bathroom. I'm in a fetal position crying. I can't believe this just happened. And about 20 minutes later, I'm kind of coming out of it, and I see other twins standing there. They're 8 years old from Texas in Iowa. They were my friend's daughters. And I grabbed them and said, why are you here? What are you doing here? And they were supposed to be at the sitters with my older 2 children. And I said, "What's in the Jeep?" And these little girls said, "Everything." I said, "You're supposed to be at a carnival." They said, "Yeah, he dumped us off in the middle of that town and said he had a present to give you." So he left these other little girls in the middle of a town with no money in 90-degree heat and took off for 2 hours to load his Jeep with my children, brought them back, tortured me in front of all my friends and family, tortured these little 8-year-olds, which I found out later now have PTSD from what he did to them. And my kids were gone. It was the first day I ever heard those horrible words, "It's a civil matter." And it makes me sick when these cops say that, because I didn't know where my older 2 were. They were 2 and 4 years old. So he was on his way to Houston, Texas. I still didn't know. And my friend, that's the mother of the older twins, said, "When you get home, everything your you own that looks like you have children will be gone. She was married to one just like it that was also a pilot for the same airline. She said, that's what they do. They're going to take everything you own. I got there, my whole house was ransacked. I had a horrible note there. Still didn't know where they were going. He ripped all their names off the wall, took all the photographs. I had nothing. No money. He cleaned out our joint checking account, even took the penny bank. So I had nothing. I was left with 2 babies that had just been home from the hospital for 2 weeks. They were 5 weeks old, preemie twins. No way to feed them, no way to nurse them, because when you're that sick, you can't even eat yourself. So I could not even eat for like 2 weeks. Tried to retain a lawyer. I had to borrow money for that. Like I said, he cleaned out my joint checking account. I had no money. Had no idea he hadn't paid anything on our vehicle. They took my van. So now I have no way of getting my twins to the hospital that were in need of medical care. So they came and got my van too. So I'm out in the middle of the country with nothing. It was 24 days later, we get to court, and the judge tells him he has 4 days to get the kids back to me. And he says, I hear you think they're not yours. He said, no, I just did that to make her mad. And he says, I'm about to make you mad, because now you're going to get a paternity test, which cost us $700. It's our marital assets. So we had to go together, humiliating. I'm in the car with a kidnapper, scared to death of him anyway. And the judge forces us to go together, an hour and a half drive one way, to find out if these kids are his, which of course they are. And the nurses say to him, we've never in our life seen babies look more like a father than we have today. So they dug even deeper. They said, we don't even dig past 99%. They dug even deeper and said, the one that he doesn't think is his is more his than the other. She's 99.999 his, the other one's 99.997. And they said, we've never seen anything like this, or no man like this. It was horrendous. So I got the kids back. It was 4 days. He made sure of it, and he flies for free. But the judge said he had to come back. I said, he flies for free. I bet he doesn't come to Des Moines. He's going to make me suffer and drive to another airport. I always know what he's going to do. Sure enough, he said it's canceled, and I have to drive to Kansas City with these preemies. So I have to drive 3 hours to Kansas City to get him. He's threatening me in the airport. He'd shaved my kid's head so I wouldn't recognize him, my 2-year-old. My daughter, who was 3.5, comes off the plane, and this is where the alienation had already started. And she says, Mommy, Daddy said that you're a bad mommy. Why are you bad? And that we went on vacation because you're bad. I didn't even know what this was called, was alienation, but that's when it started. So this starts in an intact marriage, not just afterwards. And it just continued. I mean, looking back, I remember reading stories to them, and he'd bust open the door and say, I was reading the story wrong. He's nuts. And he said, they're never going to learn this fairy tale. He's done some crazy, majorly crazy behavior, shooting a mouse in the house, so I'd be scared, running my children, hiding under beds. I've had preterm labor because of him. My twins actually flipped in my stomach, and the baby A was coming out, going to be on top of baby B, so now I have to have a C-section that wasn't planned. I was going into preterm labor, and he refused to take me to the airport, to the hospital. I had to drive myself to the hospital, and the doctor's telling me, get rid of him, you're going to lose these kids one way or the other. I didn't know it was going to be to alienation. I really thought he was just going to end our life, but going forward, I had these kids. I raised them by myself all these years. He saw our children once every 12 to 18 months. That first year, he saw them 3 times, which would have been a total of 6 days. I'd write Christmas letters every year to family and friends, said the kids got to see their dad for 3 days this year. The next year they didn't see him at all. He'd call every 8 to 10 weeks maybe, only asked to speak to my son, sometimes the oldest daughter, never to the twins, ever. So he was alienating the siblings first from one another.
Jodi, I think we get the picture that you got the kids had a bad dad, right?
Oh.
Can you talk about the courts?
Sorry. This happens all the time to me, Ted.
Can you talk about the courts.
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah, because I mean that's what I want people to talk about here today is how.
Okay, I thought I was supposed to tell my story. I guess not. All right, so the courts allow this crap, and they allow men to kidnap your children, or women, kidnap your children, violate them, mentally abuse them, whatever. And you never see your kids again. Period. You never see them again. So, is that good?
Go on. I mean, that's why we're here, is to focus on the courts, what they did wrong in your case, how they violated your rights. Did you have to go to court many times? What's the history there?
I've been to court since 2000. I've spent over $100,000 in the last 4 years.
There you go.
On litigation. I've owe over $40,000 in medical bills. I've gotten Bell's palsy, sleep apnea, anxiety, depression, all because I don't see my children. I've got a kid that wants to kill herself, that's been in a mental institution because the judge won't give her visitation. I got a kid that fell at a high school cheerleading deal, but because the judge only gave him sole legal to get Title IV funding, I was not told that my kid needed reconstructive surgery because she fell at a high school event. My name has been completely erased from all my kids' school records. That's against FERPA. I'm not able to get access to my kids' records. I was jailed when I got to the school to tell them my daughter wants to kill herself. I was jailed 3 hours later. I was jailed for 7 hours. They said I was going to plead guilty. I said, no, I don't plead guilty to things I'm not guilty of. I don't say sorry to things I'm not sorry for. And the Attorney General of Iowa came to find me at the Capitol the day I was jailed, just hours before, and said, I want your case number, judges' names, and lawyers' names. So Tom Mueller of Iowa, who represents the state, asked for my evidence and lied to me, fraud of conveyance, if you will, and said that he was going to help me with my damn case. But instead, he took all my evidence so that he gets to represent the state when I go sue their ass in a federal lawsuit. And now he's got everything, and he's already gearing up to be against me and represent the state. Let's see, I've went through several lawyers. One of them quit on me right before I was supposed to see my kids. That guy got 15 grand. The next lawyer's got over 25 grand. They've done nothing. I don't get to talk in the courtroom. I was hit by my lawyer in the courtroom. He told me to shut up. The judge says I can't see my kids because they want to see me, but the court recognized that I have PTSD because they've been kidnapped so many times, so I can't mother my kids. So I told him I'm going to sue his ass for an ADA violation and for HIPAA violation. I never once said I had PTSD. My own lawyer did, and he shouldn't have brought that up anyway. The only reason I have that in my evidence, which was not on the evidence list, just my evidence, was because my ex lied to my kids and said I was bipolar, and that a marriage counselor diagnosed me as bipolar, and a marriage counselor gave me prescriptions for being bipolar, and the Texas CPS guy told me this, and I'm like, first of all, marriage counselors can't diagnose, and they definitely can't prescribe meds, and they've been coached to say this. So he ruled everything out. I don't have a CPS case. Everyone thinks because I'm a mom and I don't have my kids, I have a CPS case. I don't have one. Joni Ernst over here from Iowa, the senator, and Congressman David Young both sent me letters saying, we can't help you because you have a CPS case. What are they talking about? I don't have a CPS case. I just wrote their asses because I'm fed up with it. So now I'm going to take those letters and walk it in because I have coffee with them on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And then I'm meeting Chuck Grassley Monday. I waited a year to get a meeting with him and Senator King. They tried to stop the meeting after I've waited this long, and Congressman King's office called me and said, Grassley wants to have a closed-door meeting with King at 3:30. I said, tough shit. I've already had these meetings scheduled. We've flown all the way here, and it's not going to happen. And if you plan on having a closed-door meeting while I'm standing there waiting to talk to both of you, then I'm calling the Des Moines Register. So they immediately said, we're going to have King come over here and meet with you. So I don't know if it'll get anywhere. Probably not. They don't care. I write them every week. I send emails, letters, red envelopes. I started the red envelope campaign January 18th, and had everyone write letters to Trump, and on the bottom put drain the swamp of family courts. I don't know, one lady sent 100 letters in one day. I've sent him at least probably 50, never heard anything back. I've sent return receipt restricted. I've sent certified. I've never got a letter back from anyone. Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney General, Iowa Attorney General, none of them. I don't get any letters back. Then the judge that says that I can't see my kids because I have PTSD, okay. Then he puts in my court order, nothing about pursuant to Iowa code, just case law. One of the case law refers to some lady flying out of her car, out of the windshield, and gets a brain injury. I don't consider I have a brain injury. This is an emotional holocaust that was done to me and my children, and I consider it a victimization. And that's why. And I get sick to my stomach going to the court and all the false allegations. So that's why. So anyway, and I can't see my kids because of this? Okay, so I wrote the Brain Injury Institute of Iowa. If I have a brain injury, then it's up to you guys to help me so I can be whole again to be a parent. And they write me back, no, I can't help you. So how the hell are you going to see your kids again?
Is your state Iowa?
Iowa.
As you mentioned Texas CPS, I think.
My case is 2 states.
Okay.
I'm from Iowa. My older 2 were taken from the back door of a school in Iowa. A few months later, we moved to Texas. He coerced my twins to get on a plane in the middle of the night while I was at work. The PTA lady at their high school drove them to the airport to traumatize me. She also sent pictures of my garage sale signs that had my girls' pictures, and I said, these girls are missing. I'm having a sale. I've got to get a lawyer. If you know them, you know, tell them Mom loves them. She sends these pictures to the judge to make me look bad and said, Jodi's selling all their stuff. I didn't sell all their stuff. I sold things that they weren't using. You know, Xbox, PlayStation, things they refused to use because they had that was what they did with their older 2. They didn't want to touch any of it. I sold their old clothes. How are we supposed to get legal help if we can't sell anything? Now they're going to dictate if we can have a garage sale or not. Nothing worse. I've been in jail because I told my daughter's counselor at school that she wants to commit suicide. So she made up a false thing and said that I assaulted her. So the Polk County DA, John Sarcone, finds out they were lying and dismisses the case. So a month later, I go back to the school. There's a cheerleading activity, and I'm hoping to see the other child there because they're twins. I thought she'd be in the cafeteria. I go in with another advocate. We don't see her. We walk out. I was ran down with the school principal, runs me down with the van and says, get the hell off the property. You have a no contact order. You can't be here. And he says, parents aren't allowed to be at a cheerleading thing. I wasn't there to see the child cheer. I was there to see the suicidal daughter. And so I can't win. Can't win. He also said I can't watch my daughters graduate next May, that I will not be allowed and I'll be handcuffed if I show up to watch my children graduate, and I don't have a no contact order. My rights have never been terminated. Nothing.
How many times have you been in court?
From 2000 on up, at least, probably 10 at least. Now I fired my last lawyer because I'm not getting anywhere, and now I'm pro se or pro per.
Good.
I'm actually getting more done that way. I would recommend that to anybody. Get rid of the lawyer. At least you can bring your own evidence. I didn't know back then that your evidence list is different than your evidence.
Yeah.
Had no idea. So they didn't have anything. He didn't even cross-examine. He didn't object to anything. Nothing. And when I get up there, I don't care what these judges think. I had a court-appointed attorney just this last week at a FINA case. I have the first one ever that's being tried in the last decade. So the judge, I think, felt that finally that these kids of mine need some help. I have the most severe case of alienation in all of Iowa. That's straight from Alfredo Parrish law firm, several law firms. So they've never seen anything like it. They've stripped people's rights for the same thing for less. And so I'm trying this FINA case. It's something new. It stands for Families in Need of Assistance. If you've got it, you might have it in your own state. And it's different than China. China's where CPS gets involved. FINA is where a parent or a child can petition for help if you can prove there's been a breakdown of the relationship with the parent and the child. And so I've already proven that. The guardian ad litem walked in. She did it kind of for me and not knowing she was doing it. She says, I'm going to do a motion to resist this FINA because I've talked to the children. They never want to see Jodi again. And so this is a moot point. And the judge was like, oh, well, then we're going to proceed. And then she just glared at me. I asked her what the guardian ad litem role was. She was disrespectful to me, rolling her eyes. And I said, why would you be disrespectful to a mother of a suicidal child? I don't get it. And I said, I guess it's stacked against me. It's already decided. Some of these cases, most of them are decided before you walk in. I felt it was already decided. I packed up my stuff and I said, I'll do you all a favor. I'm filing a motion to vacate. I'm done here. Packed my stuff up, walked over right and pointed at my ex, and I said, if our children commit suicide, it's on your ass and the state's. Walked out. The judge says, I don't accept Jodi's motion to vacate. We're going to proceed. So that's September 1st. First time in 10 years.
How many, do they allow recording devices in the courts and that?
No.
So do you have transcripts of any of your hearings?
Yes.
So you had a court reporter every time?
Actually, they didn't want to have one at this FINA, the juvenile case, because at pretrial conferences in Iowa, they don't allow it. But when I walked in, I asked where the court reporter was. My court-appointed attorney, like I said, I won't hire one. I told her I don't want one, and she says, well, FINA juvenile is different than family court. She said that 2 weeks prior, and I said, you mean it's not fake? And she goes, pretty much. And she goes, you might want a court-appointed attorney for this part. So when I walked in, I said, I want the court reporter. And she says, we don't do that. I said, you might not have before, but you're going to do it today.
There you go.
And I said, I will not open my mouth without a court reporter. So I got her in there. The judge was a little ticked off and said, who ordered this? And she said she did because she's been put through the ringer and she wants it on the record. So yeah, it's on the record. My 3-day hearing was $1,526 for that one. I even told the judge he's not taking my kids in the chambers. Back then, he said, yes, I am. I even wrote all their questions up myself because no lawyer can actually do a parental alienation case alone. There's no way. These cases are so huge. You know, like Bruce knows, it's so huge, they don't grasp it. They can't grasp this narcissism. I mean, no one gets this behavior. You have to literally sit and talk to someone. I paid my last lawyer 4 hours. Let me sit here, and when you finally catch on to the behaviors, you let me know. I don't care how much I had to pay you. 4 hours. He brought in his the people he's working with, said, this is unbelievable. But I think that's why I think it's better alone. We know our stories better than anyone else. These judges or these lawyers don't get it. They just don't. And when a kid's rejecting a parent, they don't reject parents unilaterally like this all over the world. This is ridiculous. And the judges don't ask them the questions, so they were supposed to testify against me. I knew that if they didn't testify against me, I'd never see these kids again. It had already been 650 days since I've seen their faces for the twins. At that point, it had already been 3.5 years since I saw my other 2. So when I walked in, I'm not kidding you, the judge says, we're waiting, there's a pending motion. My kids are about ready to take the stand. Every one of them but my son was there because he's never said a bad word against me. So my ex made sure he wasn't there. The older 2 are adults. They should have been in trouble for not being in court. But anyway, the judge says, we're waiting on a pending motion. And he's typing away and he goes, we're waiting, and it's good. Like a touchdown. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yep, there's been a motion filed to quash their testimony. So they're not coming in. I go, I'll never see my kids again. And he says, oh, well. He says, I'm going to see them in my chambers. I go, oh, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not. According to Iowa Civil Rules and Procedure, if one parent objects to the child going in, they're not allowed to take them in. He says, I'm doing it anyway. So just so everyone knows, his name's Judge Husher, by the way. So he took them in, and I have to pay for a transcript for that.
Judge Husher.
But the court reporter conveniently left out the part on my transcript where I said, you're not taking my kids, and I told him about the Iowa Civil Rules and Procedure. That's mysteriously gone from my transcript.
Which is exactly why we need cameras and recording devices.
Right, so I'm pushing for that in Iowa. I've got some different ideas for Iowa legislation that I'm going to present tomorrow. Video camera is one of them. Mandatory education for court actors, guardian ad litems, parent educators, lawyers, judges, mental health providers for sure, because these mental health counselors and social workers, these narcissistic people will go pay a counselor to get on the side of the child and form a therapeutic alliance with that child. And, they may come in, they've been coached all the way in. The alienator sitting outside the door, so the kid can't be authentic anyway and say what they really think. And this has happened 3 times in my cases between all 4 kids, either as a guardian ad litem or counselors. So they don't like the mom, they want to be emancipated, things they don't even know what that means. So I'm trying to get mandatory education for that and get some parental alienation symposium in Iowa and make sure there's CLEs that they have to take. Judges, lawyers, mental health providers. Iowa Department of Public Health is behind me all the way. The Domestic Abuse Division said that coercive control is abuse, so I don't know why it's not on the Iowa statute, because that's what parental alienation is. It's coercive control. And they said if it's not on there, then no one can do anything about it. So it's got to be made a crime. This is...
It's child abuse.
It's major child abuse. My kids have lost... Their dad has no one in his family but his brother, who he doesn't even talk to. The grandparents are gone. I'm the only one with family. My kids have lost a whole side of them.
Yeah, me too.
Is gone. The only way they saw my mother is she didn't see him for 500 days, so my ex knew court was coming. So he said, I'll let you see the kids, but you have to promise not to show Jodi where they are or force the kids to call her. And he says it's not in their best interest to talk to their mom. I don't know where that best interest standard came from, because it is in their best interest to have both parents. Even as crazy as he is.
It's in the best interest of lawyers to keep your case going on and on and on.
Right. So even in my case, November 18th, it was a 3-day hearing. At the end, my ex only asked for primary. So I know for sure there's Title IV going on. He asked for primary custody, was given sole legal. And I asked the judge right there, how much money did you just make off these twins? Because you just made me completely non-custodial. I'll never see these kids again. He says, well, they have to initiate contact. I said, they're never going to initiate contact. He's never going to encourage a relationship between me and those children, and they can't initiate a contact when they're in a Stockholm Syndrome type of situation. They can't do it. And he'll take all their goodies away.
That's my case too.
So, the first 2, I was traded for an Xbox and a 2008 Audi. The second 2, I was traded for a used Mercedes and a used BMW. And I don't know if I could really say, if I was young, I don't know. Maybe I would have done the same thing. I hope I would not. Thought I was raised better than that. But nowadays, these kids are so materialistic, we're not able to even punish them. That's one problem right there. So they think they're owed everything. So the alienation's real easy to do as far as I'm concerned, because we can't parent them. We can't take their door off the hinges. We can't take their phones away. Most of the parents that I talk to that have lost their kids to alienation is because that targeted parent was parenting the child and told them, you're not going to do this, or you're not going to run the streets. They want to run the streets. They're teenagers. So, single parents are really screwed, because you make one mistake and you got an alienator, like a narcissistic ex, you're in big trouble. You better start getting along sometimes. And another thing that people need to know, if you are in this type of scenario like the alienation, you can waive mediation. Some people think mediation's great, but you can't mediate with a domestic terrorist. You can't negotiate with these people. So waive your mediation. Just waive it. Why would you pay another lawyer? I'm not going to do it. I waived my mediation, got out of it. I said it's domestic terrorism. I'm not going to sit in a room and negotiate with a terrorist. And I got out of it. I said he's terrorized me our whole marriage. And then some. This has lasted for 21 years. He'll never stop. So, oh no. What else you want to know? I don't know. If anyone wants to come and sit with me behind in Chuck Grassley's office, I'd love it. We need some Iowans here. You coming?
I would usually have some comments or possibly questions, but at the 5-hour mark, Facebook stopped the broadcast. We're still streaming on YouTube.
Okay.
So I shared that. So no worries. you'll be able, everything you said will be
Good.
recorded on YouTube.
If we're on YouTube, I'm saying hi to my peeps at Polk County Jail, because I just heard yesterday from a guy in the Polk County Jail, called me, I'm not lying, called me, told me he thanked me because I came up and helped his wife, was in the courthouse in Polk County in Des Moines, Iowa. The lawyer's screaming at her. I said, oh, hell no, this isn't happening. What's going on? She goes, my husband's in jail for non-payment of child support. The ex's rights are terminated. I'm stepmom to 4 kids. I had a medical issue. That's why he couldn't work, and now the state wants his money. I said, come with me. We went off to the side, and I made phone call after phone call, and I said, I'm going to file motions for you. And anyway, Adam called me from the Polk County Jail yesterday, thanked me, and he says, oh my God, she was vetting you out to make sure your story was correct. She went on YouTube and was watching the Huffington Post article, and he says, and this guy next to me is watching you on YouTube, said, holy crap, that's the same person. And he goes, they're all watching you on YouTube. So hey to Polk County peeps. Anyway. And I've been in there myself. It's not fun. Oh God.
Thank you for your story. I've heard it before. Obviously, it's a very tragic one, and it shows. Your story shows how typically how the mothers are being taken advantage of, and it's happening that way more and more. And it's really like none of what you went through should have been that way. I mean, paternity, for instance, is just so ridiculous. There is no.
What I don't get is how are you named as a superior parent like my ex was when you've abducted children so many times and withheld them from visitation.
Right.
I don't know. I don't get it.
Trial by error. There is no management. There's no oversight and very little accountability. But the management is key in family court because there was nothing that transitioned from action for divorce to no-fault divorce. And that's what has happened is even when there is action for divorce, it's so screwed. The system is so screwed up. It doesn't even revert back to the regular due process that the courts had before family court existed. If it was, if you went into a criminal court for the abuse, or even a civil court if you had an actual contract, you would have due process, and these things that you went through wouldn't have happened.
That's right. I didn't even get depositions, Ted. We tried to get him to depositions. I subpoenaed him twice, had to pay my lawyer to do that. And then my lawyer goes, well, you're about out of your retainer, so I'm not going to file a motion to compel for discovery. I'm like, what? And I said, how am I even going to win anything? I have nothing to go by. So I filed the motion to compel for discovery myself. I'm like, I'm not waiting for you. And I filed a motion to enforce. I did all this while I had a lawyer, and it pisses them off. But I'm like, if I tell you 3 times, it's over. And then I'm going on my own. I shouldn't have to tell you more than once. I'm paying you. So I said, I can only be, and that's what I want everyone to know, you can only be as bad as your worst lawyer. Get rid of the lawyers. I mean, I'm not scared of these judges. I don't give a damn. Tanya was there. She saw me. I didn't act scared of that judge. I don't call him Your Honor. I refuse. I'll say ma'am because that's how I talk, or sir, but I'm not calling him Your Honor. And we just talked to my Texas judge that changed my jurisdiction to Iowa. I met him about 2 months ago because I invited him to the parental alienation symposium that Wendy Perry got. And he was the one that changed my jurisdiction, and I wasn't even in the damn room. I wasn't privy to it. And my ex had an emergency custody hearing, temporary, and my lawyer in Texas didn't even file notice of appearance, so I was never even served. I had no idea. Where am I? I'm all the way out to the Grand Canyon contemplating suicide, standing 3 inches from the edge, going to end my life. I had no idea that's going on, and I could have got my kids. But the same judge, he saw my invitation. He went to his coordinator and said, was that girl from Iowa? Because she's a fighter. Ask her if she wants to come talk to me. I was like, what? So she calls me up and said, hell yeah. And he's just sitting there, come on, Jodi, come on up. It's just me, him, and the bailiff. I said, take your robe off. And he's like, was it? Take it off or I'm not getting out of this chair. You want to talk to me? You're going to talk to me like one-on-one. You ain't no better. He says, okay. And he says, come on. I said, court reporter's gone. It's just me and you. And he talked for 2.5 hours. He even kicked someone out. They came in. He goes, you're late. I'm talking to Jodi. And I said, when you sit here and you've got a parent over here, I don't care if it's a man or a woman, and they're freaking bawling, I want you to look in their eyes as you're taking those kids away. You look at them. I don't give a damn if it's a man or a woman. You don't take our damn children away. And I said, and quit turning away and looking at the damn computer, because that's legal abuse syndrome too. We think you're not even listening to us. This is our lives. These are our children. This is our generations to come. What the hell? And he goes, okay, I'm going to take that into consideration. And I said, how dare you write a parental alienation article? How dare you, when I told you what this was? And he says, actually, Jodi, I wrote it because of you, because I started researching it. I go, oh, after it's too late, I was on my hands and knees in March 2015 begging you not to change my jurisdiction because that's a man state in Iowa. I don't give a damn who you are. It is. In Dallas County for sure. 80% of mothers in Dallas County, Iowa are losing their kids. Even the clerk of courts have come out when I was protesting, said, you'll never win your kids here. It's a good old boy thing. Women do not win their kids in Dallas County. Get to Polk County. And I am having a little bit more, I guess luck there, but it might be because I'm pro se, or maybe because I changed the venue. I took a damn bed up there and put my, get my mail there. So if you're having trouble in your county, get to another county, change your venue, take a bed, take a blow-up mattress, and say, hey, I'm bunking out here. You can have 2 addresses. Don't sit in your same county with your same stupid judge. They're not going to recuse themselves. They want to torture us. So I'm like, they can't do it anymore. I'm Polk County. Even the judge who put him in jail said, I bet you lost your job. Said, yeah, I lost my job because I'm 15 delays for court. I drive 720 miles to court, and the judge says, I don't want to hear it today. Are you shitting me? And so lost my job. I had to give up my job or whatever, get fired. I'm not going to get fired at 51 years old. I said, I give up. My kids need me more than UPS does. But I'm going to go after them in a federal lawsuit because of them. I don't have a job. And I'm just going to keep fighting until my federal lawsuit's over. But I'm naming Branstad, my old governor, and he's going to have to come his ass back from China as the ambassador to China because he's being named. And if that's the way I got to get media attention, the Des Moines Register won't listen. Well, they're going to listen now because he's going to be coming back in his little kimono sitting in the stands next to me, and he's going to have to explain why he allowed RICO in his family courts when I've told him over and over. I mean, even I was invited to be in a meeting in front of Branstad because the leader, the president of Iowa Federation of Republican Women, called me up, said, I've watched your story. You want to meet your governor? I said, what good's it do? But she said, come on up. We're all wearing red. Don't forget to wear red. Hell no, I wore this. And I was right smack in front of him. I said, how many more mothers or fathers have to lose their kids in Iowa for your Title IV defunding? That's what I want to know. Or Title IV-E, for that matter. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, you know very damn well what I mean. How many more? And how many more mothers are going to lose their kids? Because I heard 80% are losing them from Dallas County. And I said, what happened in 2007? Because that's the year it started happening where mothers are losing even more. And no offense to dads, it's just happening up there. And he said, well, that's when Parkersburg happened. You're damn right. We had a tornado that obliterated Parkersburg. The whole town flattened. And so they're taking children from parents there, making them non-custodial to get that money from the government to rebuild that city. I don't know those people from Parkersburg. Why are my kids rebuilding that whole city? I don't know how much each child's worth that they've got 4, but I mean, change your venue, whatever you got to do. Change your venue, keep writing letters. I've been demanding investigations. I went to the Iowa State Auditor. I'm sitting in a meeting with her, with these 40-some people, and I said, I want an audit done on some judges. And she said, we don't audit just one judge. I said, well, you're in luck. I want all of them audited from 99 counties. Every damn one of them need audited. And I said, this is crazy. She rushed us on out, right? Then we go to the Secretary of State, and I'm like, hi, Paul Pate. I have a question, Paul. And I knew you couldn't do this, but I wanted to see his face. I go, so can you authenticate my birth certificate or my children's birth certificate? Because they were born in Des Moines, Iowa. And he goes, I don't know what you mean. Yeah, you do. You know what I mean. I want it authenticated. I want it in sentence case. People say this is a conspiracy, but I want it in sentence case. Oh, we don't know what you're doing. We don't know what you're talking about, he said. 2 80-year-old women are behind me going like this, going, yes, he does. So I went down to Vital Statistics that day and told 2 women in there, I want my kids' birth certificates changed in lowercase letters, and now 8 people showed up in the office. Why do you want that? Why do you want that? I got it done, so it's the first step. I don't know. I just don't want it happening to them. And it might be too late for my kids. They're 17. I'm not trying to reverse custody and torment them. I just want to be part of their life. But I'm still fighting for their kids that aren't even born yet. So people tell me, give up, give up. No, I'm not giving up. And that's my home state, and it makes me sick. I've got relatives all over that state. I don't want this happening to my cousins' children, my children, my grandchildren. I don't want it to happen to anybody, anywhere. This is sickening that so many people are dying, killing themselves over this. We lost a mother in my state, Jodi. They found her hanging because her kids were rejecting her, and she didn't know what was going on. I sent flowers to her funeral. I had people, send these to this family. We want everyone to know that you weren't alone. We're going to keep fighting, I've got my own daughter wanting to end her life. And I said, you're not going to let Judge Husher win, or Judge Holst that took your sister and brother away 2 years ago. We're not letting them win. I was like, no, I'm not going to let their grandchildren go to college because I'm going to sue them. They're not going to have anything left when I'm done. They're not in Branstad either. He's going to just have one kimono left, I think. He's coming back. And so, also he's going to be able to afford to eat with his chopsticks. God.
If these family court judges spend a day in jail for every life that they destroyed, they probably never get out of jail.
No.
That's how many lives they destroy.
Yeah.
And a lot of these judges, a lot of these family court judges, if you don't know, they are appointed judges. They are not elected officials.
Right, and ours are appointed too, Ted, in Iowa. So I asked Branstad that too. I said, aren't you vetting these people out before you're putting them in charge in front, of our children's lives, just like Judge Navarez in Texas? I asked him, I said, what were you before you were a judge? This was our one-on-one meeting, with the bailiff there. He goes, I was a CPA. Oh, really? How many more children do you take in the chambers? He goes, well, a lot of them. What, you doing their damn math homework? What are you doing? You're a CPA? I said, you're either a CPA or a failed lawyer or whatever you are, but you have no business taking children that are being coached in the chambers. I mean, if there's abuse that you can see, and you can see it's founded, I can maybe see that, but these children in Iowa and a lot of other states, they're able to make choices at 12. I don't think so. And I said, just because my kids wanted to go be in Iowa and run the streets, that doesn't mean they're in the best place possible. I never kept them from their dad. I'm just wanting to be part of their life. I don't get it. That's it. I'm not after money. I never was. I just want to be part of their life. I mean, Dr. Mark Moss stated in it was like a phone conference that these parents, because we can travel all over, not like it was 60, 70 years ago, we're marrying people that are from a whole different geographical area that might have 2 different ideas of how to parent. I'm from Iowa. We're blunt. My ex is from upstate New York in a little bitty farm town. They don't think you can trespass on people's property. Iowa says, hey, go get something out of my fridge, and we just walk on in. And he just thinks that's crazy. So then he tells my kid she's crazy. She just walks in the house. And I'm like, I was told to walk in the house or whatever. But if you're from 2 different kinds of things, what does that mean? That doesn't mean your parenting's bad just because it's 2 different ways. And a judge might be a whole different way. So that whole best interest standard crap, why is there one guy sitting there that might have been a CPA that can decide what the best interest standard is for a family? My kids always said, we love our dysfunctional family. We just thought it was funny. And my kids are hilarious. And if they were fighting, I didn't spank them or anything. We pulled over in the middle of a rainstorm and I made them dance. until they got along. Now, someone else might say, oh my God, that's abuse. Well, it's 1:30 in the morning. You got to hear the whole thing, too. We're on a little bitty side road in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. We're not in New York City. So if a judge, though, doesn't think straight and hear the whole thing, he might go, that's dangerous. But it's really not. You got to hear the whole, quit taking it out of context and stuff. But I just don't think they should be taking any kids in chambers anyway. To me, that's traumatizing. If it's traumatizing for us sitting with those asses in the courtroom, I can't imagine being in a closed room with those people. And I think we should turn it around on them, really. I know this sounds crazy. Why aren't we turning it around on them saying that judge touched my kid? Let's see how they feel false allegations and try to defend a negative you can't defend. And just start making up stuff and play their game. That's what I think we should do. I think he touched my daughter. And take them to court for it, I don't know. But Judge Navarez, I got to say...
Anything's worth a try.
Huh?
Anything's worth a try. And like you were saying about this judge being a CPA before, I recall in Sandra Grustini's Rucky case, I remember this because I made a little GIF, a little video of her judge. I can't remember his name at the moment, but he got out of law school, practiced law for 7 minutes as the lawyer before he was appointed a family court judge.
Oh my God.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's because his family has a long history of politics, and in the legal system. This isn't cronyism is one thing. Cronyism in politics and in courts is criminal. In my feeling, lawyers should not be going on to politics or judges. They're supposed to be protectors of the law for the people. They're no longer public. They shouldn't be allowed to go on to politics, because this is what happens. You get a family of politicians who appoint each other to judges, justices, or other political branches.
No, see, that's what we got in Iowa. About half of them, I think, are attorneys. And when I was walking through there a couple months ago, I was asking where a certain meeting was taking place. And the guy said, why, are you against guardian ad litems being lawyers? And I said, absolutely. And he says, huh. And I said, what, you an attorney? And he was a House of Representatives. He goes, yeah. I said, well, why would we want a guardian ad litem that's supposed to be looking out for the best interests of our kids if that guardian ad litem is a lawyer? Because the first obligation of a lawyer is to the courts. And I said, so wouldn't that be the same for the guardian ad litem? It's not to our kids. They don't care. And Ashley Hinson, she's a House of Representatives, she pushed that bill through. And now all guardian ad litems have to be lawyers. And this was pushed through by Fogg as well. And they pushed and pushed and pushed. And it's going to be a travesty for kids. It really is. I mean, maybe not in CPS cases, I don't know, but it's ruined my kids' lives. Tanya got to see the guardian ad litem, how she treated me. She's already had this figured out. Talk to the kids. They said this. Oh, yeah, why are you talking to them at a narcissistic, person's home? Why aren't you coming to my house and see what my house looks like and see how I act in person? Not crazy. I'm just frustrated that I can't see my kids. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I've literally taught them all to drive. I don't see them get a license. Taught them how to walk, talk, everything. I've never seen them in prom dresses, I've never been able to have graduation parties. All of us parents are losing stuff that's never going to come back, whether you're a man or a woman. This is not right at all. And I wonder what they would think if they had to do it behind us. I'm going to ask them tomorrow, how long would you go? How long would you go without your kids in your life and your grandkids? I think we need to get them all in a room. Well, I'm not going to say what I want to do, but I think we need to get them all in a room in meetings, these legislators, and maybe everyone's visual, and they're all attached to their phones. If you look at the restaurants, they're all got their phones, right? And I say, hey, everybody, we're going to pass around a basket. Everybody take a picture. Go in there and find a picture of your loved one. Okay, now put it in this basket. And then we go take the basket, and I bet they'd cringe and say, how much would you pay me to get that phone back? How much would you pay? Oh, how much would you pay to get your loved one back? Because I've spent $100,000. and still don't see them. I want them to see it like that and see if they, if it'd get to their head. I don't know if it really would. I don't know. They're so greedy, I don't know. But, you got anything else? What else? Oh, I'm asking for a 3-strike law too, because in Iowa they don't put you in, well, a lot of places they don't put you in jail for taking your kids. So why not do a 3-strike law? They want money. All right, give them money. If someone withholds your kid, you pay a fine and strike 1. Okay, and then we get the kid. Say they take your kid 20 days outside of the normal time. I get 20 days uninterrupted time. Or Bruce, he doesn't get his kid for 40 days. Then he gets 40 days uninterrupted time. No text, no talk, nothing. And it might sound cruel because you're taking the kid away for a little bit, Ted. We talked about this. But Dr. Craig Childress and every one of these alienation experts say that's the way to do it. You reward them for going to the targeted parent's house. Reward them. And I would venture to guess that after the 2nd strike, there'd be no more. Because on the 3rd strike, reversal of custody. Too bad.
They should do jail time.
I do think jail time, but they hardly do it. I'd love it. But I said, let's do it, because you can't hurt a narcissist without hurting them in the pocketbook or humiliation. That's it. I'd love to see my ex wearing a sandwich board. I'm a child abuser. And making him pick up trash in the ditch. That would be it for him, but he'd probably do something worse to me. I don't know, but
we know that parental alienation is usually instigated by the courts.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the courts creating a non-custodial parent in the first place, parental alienation would go way, way, way down.
Right.
And
right.
if we had a simple civil contract as a marriage contract stating in that contract that if and when we get a divorce and you figure this out while you're both still amicable, in the future, our future children are equal, 50-50, equal. We can figure out custody ourselves, basically, with the usual standard of being 1 week on, 1 week off. If that stuff is all set the day you get married, then you wouldn't be in this situation when you're both at odds and you both hate each other trying to figure it out. That's simply how the lawyers profit off of it.
Yep.
And now we have a $1 billion a year industry created off of hate, which is just the most ridiculous, out of this world thing that I could even imagine actually exists that we're going through.
Right.
The point of that.
One red flag I've noticed, you can tell who's the alienator. If the targeted parent has now succumbed and said, okay, I've lost all my money, I'm going to go pro se, the alienator always can find that money to keep fighting. Why would you keep paying to keep your kid from the other parent? I mean, that's just that should be a red flag right there. Okay, they're willing to pay $10,000 down for a retainer like mine. They're 17 and a half. Why would he pay another $10,000 to keep them from me for 6 more months? If I'm that damn abusive, I would have been locked up by now or had a CPS case, and I don't. The Texas thing was ruled out the minute he came in my house and said the marriage counselor said I was bipolar. I'm like, they can't do that, and they can't prescribe meds, and the best part is, when did I go marriage counseling? He said, I don't know. I said, in 1999, and then when were my twins born? He goes, oh, yeah, 3 months later. So how did they find that out? Because they were gone at 5 weeks old. But, I mean, like I said before, if they're willing to pay all that money to keep you from your kid, that should that should be a red flag to these judges. Ridiculous. Hopefully they'll get it in the end, because karma's really going to be bad.
They're all accountable, and getting into parental alienation, and one thing that's hindering mandatory certification for all psychologists and therapists involved in fam court is the fact that the system knows that they're at fault most of the time, and as soon as that mandatory certification clears and takes place, then the fingers are pointed right at the judges, or right at the abuse. That's the biggest hurdle, because that's one path, and that's why I like going to like Wendy Perry's event, the Parental Alienation Symposium in Dallas. Is if that happens, that is one path to ending this. There's a few different ways to get to the end, and that is one. So.
Yeah. And that's what I'm going to push for, the mandatory. Yeah.
What I was going to say before was that I forgot was you mentioned Dr. Childress. He said that it is sometimes very simple to figure out which parent is the alienator and which one is the targeted parent. You put the kids by themselves in a room with him, and you ask specific questions. I don't remember him sharing with us those specific questions when he was speaking. That's probably a trade secret, but you ask them specific questions, and then you bring the parents in, and how they react, he can tell in under 5 minutes which one is the targeted parent, which one is the alienating parent. And that type of knowledge, that understanding, these quote questions that he has, that, you know, he's a person that should be able to teach, or it should be mandatory that it's taught, you know, this experience that he has.
Well, plus he also stated, Ted, we asked him, is this a form of, this was at the symposium afterwards, you know, the after party. We said, is this an extenuation of domestic abuse? And he said, yes. The women that do it were typically sexually abused in their past. The men that do it typically have a personality or some sort of other, like, attachment-based disorder or whatever, I think is what he said. But,
Right.
And then he also stated, remember that statement he says, I think about this all the time, that parental alienation is not a child custody issue, it's a child protection issue. So if it's a child protection issue, to me, our first step is educating them, the mental health field, you know, so they can come in. We can say, okay, well, let's bring the forensic psychologist in here then and talk to them. Not the counselor that has no education in this, but the ones that do.
Right.
You know, because the counselor had no education in this, said, oh, the kids don't want to see Jodi. And we're like, that's it? You're not going to ask them why? And why is the dad or the mom, in any case, why are they in the therapy with the child anyway? And if that parent goes to that therapist prior to the kid even showing up to plant that seed of false abuse, they shouldn't be allowed to do that either. If the kid's that bad, just take the kid in there. It's not like they're 2. These are usually happening to kids that are 13 and up. They don't need to have a parent going walking in there planting the seed of abuse. But I think that's just a major red flag. I mean, why are they in there? I don't understand.
The main thing Childress wanted to point out is all the syndromes, I guess, and I'm not a psychologist, so forgive me if I'm not saying these right, but the 4, there's 4 things on the DSM-5 that, and each one of those things constitutes child abuse. And there's 4 things on there that happens in parental alienation or family bond obstruction or pathogenic parenting, however you want to call it. They are listed in the DSM-5, but they do not recognize parental alienation yet, even though all the symptoms show child abuse.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And it's literally just being held up by a small group of people. But the thing is, that small group of people are making calls. They are making calls every single day, stopping stuff like this, stopping our bills, stopping our progress. So until we come together as a community, you know, not just single groups, but like Connie Reguli's idea of flooding with letter campaigns, but making it simpler and doing calling campaigns where every one of us calls every single governor in every single state at a different time. Because the people who are calling, who are against us, they're not all from one town. They're calling from all over the country to this one town. They're getting everybody to call because they don't, in a call or an email, they don't ask if you're in their jurisdiction.
Right.
They just take down what you said, and the person running for the politician running for whatever seat sees that and knows to talk about it. So they're getting our adversaries more than they're getting us. That has a lot to do with the fact that we have about 3,000 different groups in the family law reform movement.
Yep.
There's certainly some bigger ones, obviously. I know, like USPF and the Fathers' Rights Movement are working together, and the Fathers' Rights Movement, as we know, is generating hundreds of thousands, and we have work to do as a movement to get more people active. But the thing is having access, all of us, including like Connie regularly, she's in a smaller pocket of people, a smaller group, but getting her voice out to, those 300,000 and getting people to start flooding these offices with calls is going to go a long way in changing things. And that's something I'm hoping to do after the march, get something like that started, a calling campaign.
I always thought we should do like each day is something. Like Monday, we all call governors. Tuesday, we all call legislators. Wednesday, we all call the White House, whatever. We just flood. I'm getting that meeting with Congressman King and Grassley. They didn't shorten it because I had people from all over the U.S. that started calling and say, Jodi set this up and you're not going to do this or we're all going to call the Des Moines Register. So I know those calls work. They called me from King's office within about 15 minutes. Why are you calling the Des Moines Register? No, we promise we're gonna let this go forward. Okay, because your phone's gonna keep ringing off the hook if you don't. We've came a long way to do this, but yeah, it works. Yep, and you don't have, like you said, you don't have to be like Iowa. If I say everyone call Governor, now it's Reynolds' office. If they say ask where you're from, I don't know, look up our counties. Just name something. Polk County, Pottawatomie. Name a name. There's counties in Texas that probably match Iowa. Just make something up. 99. It doesn't matter. Just say it's none of your business. Yeah, you can just say, I don't trust you. I'm not going to say it. None of us trust them, so just say, I'm not trusting you. Yeah.
A lot of times you go onto an answering machine, or you can even, because it's very simple. You don't have to have a conversation with somebody and that you don't know what you're doing. You can simply write down exactly what you say, which is a sentence, like simply a sentence, and you can opt to leave a voice message.
That's what I tell people. That's what I tell people. Yeah. If they have a hard time on the phone, I say call at night. When there's a voice recorder, call at night. Just leave a message. That's all you got to do. You don't even have to leave your name. Yeah. I do.
No. You are then recorded as a constituent in that area, whether you're in freaking Hawaii or New York. You're recorded as a constituent, and they take down what you said. And depending on how many people ask you to talk about it as you're running for office, that will depend on whether or not they talk about it.
Right.
So,
well, I encourage people to start writing to Chuck Grassley here, because he might be the senator of Iowa, at the U.S. level, but he's the head of the Judiciary Committee at this level. So this is who we need to be writing. This is a big deal. Like I said, it took me a year to get this meeting.
Right, and we're in an interesting time with the midterm elections coming up.
Yeah.
In 2018, we will be facing, in 2018 we'll be facing the shift from a single party administration to now a mixed administration. So we're hoping to get as much done as we can while it's a single party administration. But we want to make sure that as we get closer to 2018 and the midterm elections, that we get this process down pat, and as a community, we start acting like our adversaries do.
Right. And I'd ask him for a reply and ask him, say, since you're you're up for re-election, I want to know what you feel about whether it's shared parenting or parental alienation being considered a crime. I don't know, mandatory education for these people. Ask them what they feel about it and say, we want to know because we need to know what to do when we get to the voting booth. And so we want an answer and put them on the spot. And like in Iowa, we have something called Central Committee meetings. I don't know what that would be. Other places in Texas, they call them Republican or Democrat groups. You can go to those. You don't have to be in that group. You can go, you don't have to be a member, and you can sit in and ask to speak. They have an open floor at the end for about 5 minutes and bring it up about parental alienation or the racketeering or any of that and take advantage of it. You can call any of your Department of Public Health too and say, we want mandatory education here.
There's something fell over the camera. I just wanted to let you guys know.
Something fell.
Maybe a hat or an umbrella or something.
It's heavy there. What needs to happen?
I'm here.
What needs to happen to get out of that?
Something fell on it.
Yeah, there's something covering up the camera lens.
It's probably a laser from the sniper.
Oh, okay. No, it's the.
Let's wave at him. Move your laser.
Do this again.
It was
Move your
the,
laser.
Are there snipers on the Capitol? It's the White House.
Oh yeah.
it was the part of the microphone.
Oh.
Part of the wireless mic, the headset mic.
Oh, I see. So you got it right up on the phone so you can hear over there.
Remember that movie?
That's genius.
He hates those cans. He hates that camera.
It really turned out to be a beautiful day. It looked really dark there for a little while.
I know.
Around this time when Facebook cut us off. It was at the 4-hour mark, actually, that Facebook decided to just stop.
It's kind of dark
streaming,
that
and
way.
So I started getting messages what happened, and I'm like, I have no idea. Just stopped. I'm still streaming it. I'm still streaming to Facebook. Facebook's just not publishing it anymore.
Wow.
So another
Well, this is
reason
Bruce. Are you coming
to
up,
want
Bruce?
to get people to YouTube to watch these things.
You want to?
And
You want to talk?
one thing about YouTube is if like for instance the Million Parent March channel, the more times it's viewed, the more subscribers it has, the more it's put on the top of the list when people search things. So if you put in judge or judiciary or family court or even family, the more viewers we have, the higher up on the list we are in the search.
Are you
So
talking
right now
about?
there's,
Are you talking about the
40
hashtag,
viewers.
or what's he talking about?
This is the YouTube channel, so
Talking about YouTube.
if we, yeah. So I'm just saying, like, now you're streaming on YouTube because YouTube has no restrictions. Apparently, Facebook has a 4-hour limit on their live streams,
Well,
which is another reason.
maybe I don't know if you can put all of our names on there because you know we got the Polk County inmates watching.
Yeah. Well, if
We
you're
gotta keep
watching
them
from
entertained.
Polk County, Iowa, you're listening to Jodi Mueller right now, your favorite YouTube celebrity.
We all hate Branstad, right?
Yeah.
And Steve
But if
Wink,
you're-
the
if
cop.
you're watching this from there, please subscribe to the Million Parent March YouTube channel. The more subscribers we get, the higher up on the list we get
Yeah.
when people search for things.
And I'm
that will
betting,
bring
what do
a
you
lot
think?
of
I bet
awareness.
half of those inmates, if not more, were alienated children.
Oh.
Or from a single parent household, whether it's mom or dad. I
That's
bet you
right.
anything.
Absolutely,
Half of
yeah.
you.
Yep.
So you're not alone. Join these groups.
If we can get 300,000 people to subscribe to that page and every day somebody just clicks on it and views it for 5 seconds, that'll put us up higher in the search list. So it would be amazing if you just typed in the word family and the Million Parent March was the first one on the list. Could you imagine how much awareness we would spread at that point?
Yeah.
That would be insane. We'd be reaching every household in the world at that point.
I started hashtagging our new governor, Kim Reynolds, and she actually came on a Facebook Live. And I was at a Tea Party meeting in Texas, and she was watching it.
Wow.
Yeah. So she can't say now that she doesn't know about the racketeering, right? So now she does nothing. Isn't that malfeasance of office? And I've got proof she was on there. Anyway.
It's interesting when somebody's doing something neglectful
Yeah.
They can say it, even though they can be held accountable for it, it's still harder to prosecute them. But if they're doing it intentionally, if they know about it, there's no getting away with it at that point.
Yep. Yep.
So it's just a matter of time before these people are held accountable.
Yeah, when the Attorney General himself came to find me at the Capitol and said, "Are you Jodi Mueller? I'd like your case number, lawyer's names, and judges' names." I'm like, "What?" And then tried to tell me that he's going to help me. Huh. He obviously knows about it now. He's got a whole stack of stuff. So he's going to be named too. So, anyway, I think Bruce is going to talk next. Hey, Ted.
Yes.
I'm making Bruce Nowitzki talk.
Yeah.
I tag him all the time.
Fantastic.
I tag him all the time on purpose. He's my buddy. He came to pick up me and Tanya at our hotel because we don't know what the hell we're doing.